Hello, everybody. Better Spaces is a health and happiness solution for today's hybrid workplace. My name is Dr. Paul Cachoa with PAR5 Physical Therapy here in Randolph, New Jersey, and I partnered with them to bring you this easy and educational workday session. So today's session is the perfect golf warm-up. And, it's a little bit about me. I've been interested in golf and studying the golf swing, I don't know, probably since 2010. I've been a physical therapist for over 25 years. I got my doctorate from Mercy College in upstate New York, and I'm a certified Titleist Performance Institute golf medical professional and certified orthopedic clinical specialist and certified dry needling specialist in New Jersey. So anything that you want to talk about or anything you want me to cover today, any questions, feel free to use the chat and we'll get to that as soon as we can. So let me pull up my slides here. And you know what? Before I even start, I'll tell you the story that, everybody's wondering, like, you're here now. It's like, what is this perfect golf warm-up? And if we understand how your body moves, then we can figure out what the golf warm-up would look like so that you can play your best and be free on that first tee. It's almost time. It's like itching. It's like February. We're going into March. And usually I, unsheath the clubs in April, and then right around the Masters tournament, I get to hit my first balls. But last year I was out hitting at the driving range, and and I was getting ready to hit some balls, doing my thing. And this gentleman came up to me and it's like, oh, you know what? Let me show you how to warm up. And she got in there. He got in there, and I didn't tell him what I did or my background or anything, but he showed me a couple of things to do with the club and kind of like all about my wrists and forearms. And that's what a lot of my clients focus on, is that they'll grab a club, grab two clubs or whatever, and start to, swing the club, swing slowly, or swing two clubs at one time and try and replicate their golf swing. And we're going to see in the class today why that might not be the best way to warm up and make sure that your swing is consistent and your body is loose. All right, so let me pull up my my slides here. So the perfect golf warm-up. Now, because I'm a medical professional, I have to give you this disclaimer here that, the information that we're going to be going over in today's class is general, useful information for a broad population. But if you're dealing with something specific, an injury, a pain, whatever, please have that checked by a medical professional. Have a full physical and thorough evaluation so that you can understand the root cause of your problem. Because not one video online is going to be the best solution for you. Alrighty? So you have to understand the body. And the simplest way to understand the body is that it works on this alternating pattern of stability and mobility. If this pattern is disrupted, then pain or injury is usually the result. Okay, so let's kind of slow this down here and kind of take a look at this. For golfers, it's all about mobility. We want to be loose. We want to be able to swing freely and rotate around, primarily in two big parts: the thoracic spine, the T-spine over here, and the hips, and the shoulder too, right? But anyway, the big thing is that I see a lot in my clients is that their lack of hip mobility and their lack of thoracic spine mobility. And what that does, it changes the role of those two segments, one or two of them, both of them, and they become stable. So they reverse their role, they become stable. So what happens, because say, for example, if you have a tight thoracic spine and that becomes a stable segment, then usually segments above or below usually try and make up for that. So typically the lower back is what's sandwiched in between these two tight spots. And then the lower back becomes unstable. Instead of being a stable segment, it reverts into an unstable one, a mobile segment, and then that's when we get back issues. The lumbar spine, the lower back, is not designed to rotate. The way that the joints are put together in the lumbar spine, it's really good at flexion and extension, going forward, going backward, really good at side bending, but not really good at rotation. Majority of the rotation that should occur is thoracic spine and then hips and pelvis, okay? So understanding that, And also because the shoulder also needs to be flexible as well. It's one of the most mobile parts of our body, but particularly the top two are thoracic spine and hips. Now, understanding what would be the perfect golf warm-up, it needs to be done in standing, right? I can't sit down or lie down on the ground because depending upon where I am, driving range or first tee, I want to be able to do this without getting dirty and lying on the ground. You need to have minimal equipment. You don't need a lot of stuff for what we're going to do right now. All you have is like maybe your club. You have your club, you could use those. And also if you're really want to warm up your body, bring an exercise band. That's really easy to do. Just take an exercise band, throw it in your bag, and you could use that as well. And it has to be quick, right? So we're talking about 5 minutes. Be able to warm up and hit that first ball with power, speed, and really outdrive your partners within 5 minutes. And the key is the last thing I'm going to talk about, that the research shows how to increase 10 yards off the tee right off the bat. And I'll show you that. All right, so we want to get loose. We want to lose those first tee jitters, and we want to talk about stretching. All right, stretching. There's 2 types of stretching. There's static stretches and dynamic stretches. Now, static stretches are the typical ones that you see that people get into a position, stretching out a muscle, and then maybe holding it, right? So if I'm stretching out the pec, I'm going to bring my arm back, either like in this position, like leaning on a doorway or something like that, a corner of a room, and I'm holding that position, allowing that tissue, that muscle to relax and elongate. That's a static stretch, and they're typically held for the bare minimum 30 seconds. Anything less than 30 seconds, then that tight tissue snaps back into a shortened position. We didn't create any permanent change. Because the first thing that happens is that when we're trying to stretch tissue, we want to affect the nervous system, right? So that muscle is on. What governs the muscle is your brain. Your brain says, all right, I'm going to keep that muscle on for some reason, either adaptively has become short, or we are relying on the tightness of that muscle for some stability or whatever. And we have to let that muscle relax and then lengthen and hold that for at least 30 seconds to create a permanent length change. Now, on the other side, there's dynamic stretching. And dynamic stretching is typically done prior to an activity. And that's with movement. That's what we're going to get into. We're talking about right before you hit the ball, we're going to go through dynamic stretches. Research shows that if you do a static stretch, those 30-second holds in any muscle, it lowers that ability for that muscle to create force. All right, a muscle creates force by shortening, and we want to make it fast and powerful. It has to do that quickly. But if you stretch that out and with a static stretch, it's not going to be able to create that force. It retards your ability to perform. All right, so we want to make sure that we're doing the proper type of stretching. We want to work on hip mobility. We want to work on torso mobility. And then we want to work on the stability components as well. We want to work on core, lower back stability, and glute strength or glute activation. Because when it comes to the golf swing, you could think about like, right, I got to get my hands in this plane or this position. I got to make sure that I don't cup my wrist. I got to bow my wrist. I got to get this in the slot, get it on plane or whatever. That doesn't occur unless you can really work on the lower body. The golf swing starts on the ground. It starts in your feet, goes through this kinetic sequence of events, this kinetic chain, we call it. Legs, feet, legs, hips, core, torso, shoulder, arm, and then finally the club. So if we're trying to create the fastest club head speed, we want to make sure that we build up that speed, that power, that torque through those segments and transfer that speed all the way into the club, not kind of like lose a power leak or something like that. All right. So these are the things that we're going to talk about. We're going to be mobile through the hips, torso, and shoulders, and we're going to be stable through the core and the lower back. And let's start here. Let me pull up my my 2-shot, and we're going to get into this here. All right. So it's going to be something super easy that you don't need a lot of equipment for. Now, we know if you're going to hit a golf ball, you're going to have a golf club. So at the very bare minimum, you're going to have one of these, right? And we could use this for our warm up. But since I'm here in the clinic, I've got these stretch out sticks, these PVC pipes I bought from Home Depot, and they will work well. All right. And another one that we could use is a band. So this exercise band that I have here, you can get these for like a couple bucks off of Amazon. It's a loop. super easy to use. We're going to be doing some specific exercises to warm up our body, to activate muscles so that we can swing fast and swing hard. All right, so the first thing that we're going to work on off the list is, again, from the ground up. We've got a couple options with this. We're going to do a leg swing. All right, so it's a dynamic movement. You're basically going to be holding on to it, your club, stick, or whatever, and then that same side, just swing the leg forward and backward. So what we're looking for here is a long arc of motion with the knee fairly straight, swinging that leg forward and backward. And as you could see, as I'm moving my leg, I'm not moving my upper body. One of the key components of a good repeatable golf swing is being able to dissociate body parts. I can move one part and not the other, not connected and not be able to control that, all right? So what we're gonna do, you can go ahead and stand up there. This is super easy. You're gonna grab something to hold on to, and we're gonna do this leg swing, all right? And what you should feel like there's a hamstring stretch in the front, and if I do this backswing properly and activate my glute, my back muscle here, my hip, I'm gonna feel a little bit of stretch in the front of my thigh. And again, shoulders, trunk still. I'm activating my core so that this doesn't move. I don't want one of these, and I don't want this. That's just the knee. That doesn't do anything. We want the hip to move. So we're gonna go for maybe about 10 or 30 seconds of this, right? Just swinging, trying to isolate that movement. And if it's a balance issue, like you have a hard time holding yourself up, then you're gonna hold on with both things. You could do this holding onto a wall. A more stable surface will be easier for you to do the leg swings, okay? The next one we're gonna do is a side to side or a lateral leg swing. And the key components with this is, and this is super important for the golf swing, is that when we swing this leg, again, it's gonna be straight with the leg that's swinging. We want the toe to come up on either side, all right? So toe comes up here, toe comes up there. What I'm gonna be holding on to is my sticks, and I'm gonna give myself space. So maybe I can get into a little bit of a hip hinge here. Maybe it looks like a golf posture. It doesn't have to be 100%, but I'm gonna rotate around the standing leg. So if I'm gonna swing my right leg around, toe up, I get rotation of my pelvis on the standing leg. You could see how my hips are moving around my left leg. From the front, toe up, toe up, toe up, toe up. And because I'm moving my pelvis rotates, I am getting a rotation through my torso from the ground up or from the bottom up, right? So it looks like this. Again, if you can keep your shoulders still, that would be key. Again, dissociating body parts, being able to move one part and not the other, shoulders still, 10 to 30 seconds for a swing each side, all right? And then we're gonna work on torso rotation. What does that look like? Well, something simple as like I've seen people do like the club behind the shoulders. They can kind of go in here and they kind of just work through that range, or they'll go put the club behind their elbows because they can't get the shoulders in that position, and then they'll rotate through here like, yeah, I'm getting ready, right? But the big thing here is that we're trying to rotate through the thoracic spine. And if I am upright and I'm rotating through here, which is not bad, there's nothing wrong with that, I'm not isolating the thoracic rotation, right? I'm rotating through here. If my lower back is straight, it is unlocked. And when I try and rotate through my thoracic spine, if my thoracic spine is tight, I'm gonna try and attempt to rotate even more, and my lower back is gonna unlock, and then I'm gonna have some more range of motion. So this here really isn't as specific as something like an A-frame stretch. So an A-frame stretch is getting into, and this also kind of plays into activation of the glutes, right? So we're gonna get into a little bit of a squat, a little bit of a hip hinge. And we wanna try and pin, and this is the difficult part, pin the elbow and my fist in between my knees. So it looks like this. I'm gonna bend my hip, pretend I'm sitting in a chair, activates those glutes, those big muscles of the legs that we're gonna activate in our golf swing, pin the elbow between my knees, okay? I create tension. I squeeze here, I got my groin muscles activated as well. I'm gonna take this hand and then rotate my head, my torso up and look at that hand as I do this. Because my lower back is more flexed, it's locked up and I can't rotate as much through my lower back. And I could rotate more through my thoracic spine when my lower back is flexed. So from the front, it looks like this. I'm going to pin the hand in between, or elbow, fist between my knees. Hand is here, and I'm going to look up as I rotate. And the big thing here is, again, rotating through the torso. I just don't want this. I'm looking down, and all of a sudden, yep, I'm rotating. I've got my arm. I see that all the time. Whenever I tell somebody to rotate through the torso, they just kind of do this. And I'm rotating through my shoulder. Nothing wrong with that. But again, your body knows movement. It doesn't know muscle. And if we give you a task, a movement problem to solve, your body will seek the path of least resistance. And wherever you're tight, it's not going to move it. It's just going to move through whatever is loose and what is dysfunctional. So we want to make sure that we're not cheating, and we're making sure that we're rotating through the torso with that A-frame stretch. All right, another one that I like to do, and this I think would be easy to see with the club, is that, at the top of the backswing, we want to be able to set that club before we take it into impact. And there's a lot of players that are fine with setting the club with a flying elbow, right? Having that arm come up like that. That's okay. But ideally, we have to kind of bring that club back and in and get that elbow tight to the trunk as we get into impact. And the way to do that is basically make sure that we have enough, what we say, external rotation, particularly of the trail arm. Okay, we need to externally rotate that. So especially in golf posture, one of the tests that I put people through in my golf movement screen is getting into a golf posture, taking the elbow at shoulder height and trying to rotate this and trying to get that forearm past, let me check my camera here, get it past my spine angle, all right, in the golf posture. That's a good test. And kind of work on getting that into that position. We take the club. I've got my elbow at 90 degrees here and about my shoulder height. And I'm just going to push. And you can kind of see how my hand goes back. And I'm just rotating. Again, static stretches are not good prior to activity. We're going through a dynamic stretch. I'm moving this around, right? And again, as I do this, the cheat is going to be elbow bending and straightening. I don't want that. That's not shoulder rotation. That's elbow flexion and extension. We want to rotate. So I'm locking that elbow. And oftentimes I'll throw this in with my trunk rotating. Just kind of getting into that position, set, and then boom, right? Set, backswing, right? All right, so that's the shoulder stretch. What do I have another one? Oh, the lunge stretch. So now we're going to work downstream into the leg. We want to be able to activate your glute more, and we're going to add some rotation with this. So the position that we're going to try and attain with one leg is basically our golf posture, right? If we go lower, maybe into a lunge, that's fine. This makes it very difficult if I do one of these. But if I'm quick, I can just do one of these. So it's getting into this. You could see kind of like from the side angle how this left side of my body makes the spine angle and makes the shape of a golf posture as I take my arms and I rotate to the same side. In the front, I'm rotating over that lead leg as I drop this leg back. From the side here, I'm just touching this right foot back lightly, trying to rotate and load this left glute as I sit into that position. And I can repeat on both legs. So that's the easy way to do it. The more difficult way, and I love doing this, is to add rotation to the other side. So you notice that I'm swinging or rotating only to the lead leg. I could switch it up and also do rotation to the opposite leg, to the right, as I come out of this position and rotate over. So it looks like this and like that. So now we've got a much more dynamic rotation, which requires me to be super stable through my core and my glutes and my hips. Another version of that I've had people do is use a band. So we're going to take the band out. Let me see my list here. Yeah. And then take this out and do the same thing. We can kind of do it this way, which creates a lot more emphasis on the shoulders as I rotate, I can't cheat with the arm because I want to keep this band locked into my chest, hands apart, shoulder blades back and down. And I could do the same thing if I wanted to, right? So this is another variation, more advanced. Do the rotation to the opposite side. And again, 5 to 10 times each side. All right. Another one we're going to work on getting more specific into these golf postures is lower body pelvic rotation. It's going to be a supported rotation. Let me get from the side here. You take your stick, your club, your driver, put it out in front, and apply a little bit of pressure through it. And as I push down into the stick in this golf posture, you should feel that this turns on the abdominals a bit, right? So I'm pushing down, I activate my abdominals, and from here, I want to try and rotate my pelvis. I want the pelvis to rotate, but not my torso. Again, dissociation of body parts here, super important. Can I rotate both directions, not side bend? I'll show you from the back here. I see this all the time. When I say rotate your pelvis, they get side to side. More lateral, I need to bump my hip. I need to get to my left side. That's what everybody thinks. But rotation, I'm gonna check my camera, is basically tight and getting left hip forward, right hip forward. So rotation is different than this lateral shift. So once we set up, and that comes from the core, being able to activate the core and rotate around the pelvis. So once we activate that, about 20 to 30 seconds, we can start to take out our band again. And this, I think, is a big one. If you have back pain after a round, if you're a right-handed golfer and the right side, right lower back is lit up after your round, this one's for you. So you're gonna put the band underneath the lead foot, get into your driver stance, put the band in both hands, put it right on your chest. You're gonna make your turn, get to the top of your backswing with your torso, with your trunk. And then wherever your trunk is pointing, we're gonna put your arms out in front, okay? So I'll show you from the front, here it is. Here's my driver stance, get into my posture, I rotate with my torso. And then wherever my torso is pointing, that's where my hands go. My hands don't go up where I'm gonna be having the club, right? This is not for the technique of your swing. It's not to improve your width of your turn. It's to activate your core, which connects your pelvis to your torso. So we're gonna rotate, hold that out there. And I have people hold this for like 10, 20 seconds. You should feel that the abdominals turn on for you to hold this position. We don't want this, we don't want the elbows to be bent. We don't want it down here. It's torso turn, wherever the torso is pointing, that's where the hand goes. And we just do this to the backswing side. Alrighty? All right, so hopefully once we get that all done, the secret sauce is this. If you wanted to improve your driver distance 10 yards off of your first shot, your first tee, you have to activate your body physically. And physically, warming up, I'm a little bit out of breath with all the stuff that we just did, right? I'm warmed up, I'm ready to go, is to activate also your neuromuscular system, your nervous system, being able to be prepared to move fast. And that doesn't mean get a club, maybe reverse it like this. And I've seen this drill where you're trying to swing through and then get that swish, right? Trying to move fast and then change it over the club. That's over speed training, which I think is very useful. Whereas you take your club and you take a couple swings with the club head down and then swing as fast as you can with the club head up, maybe I would say 3 to 5 swings, and then repeat it again, the club head speed should be different, should be increasing, right? But one way to, and this is where the research comes in, where you can create the most amount of power is with your drive is after you do some jump squats. So a jump squat, if you're gonna go to the tee, it looks weird, but it really activates your core, is that we did the warm up, our body is all loose and limber, and we just do a jump squat. And a jump squat doesn't have to be big. You can make it, easy if you want, and then kind of build up. But we wanted to make it be purposeful and leave the ground. So it's kind of like here, and then jump, and squat, and jump, and then squat, and then jump. So if we did 10 of those, and then we hit the ball, the research says that you should be able to hit that 10 more yards. Alrighty. So that is the perfect golf warm-up. So I hope you found this helpful. every time that I go out and I go play, these are some of the things that I do for my body so that I can maintain it and I don't feel sore afterwards. Like if it's early tee time, like the first one out, and I don't do this and I just do like the half-ass kind of arm swingy stuff, we notice it. On that first tee, I'll just kind of hook it right into the woods. So we want to be able to have a good sequence, activating the core, activating the glutes, getting the lower body moving better, hips are mobile, thoracic spine mobile. All right?